everyone, and welcome to this week's Mathematics Monday. Before I get started on today's topic, which is how to round numbers to the nearest 10, I just wanted to quickly spend a moment to acknowledge that we've had some terrible flooding in the region where I live in southeast Queensland in the few days before this video will go to air. Now, I know many of you will be watching this at another time and won't have any connection to Queensland. But for my students who come into the studio in person, who also watch these videos, I just want you to know that I'm thinking of you. I know it's difficult to miss school for a couple of days, especially when it's already tricky to keep up. So I hope you'll find this video and other ones that I have put up in the past and will put up in coming weeks somewhat helpful in revising topics which might have to be covered a bit more quickly, or going back and learning things that you might have missed. Okay, let's have a talk now about how we round numbers to 10. So, the first thing to talk about, and I'll move myself here so we're not missing anything, is that multiples of 10 is kind of like counting in 10 when we do our times tables. We say the multiples of 10 and they all end in 0. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And if we were starting at the beginning, it would be 0, 0. There'd be none, but it would still have a 0 on the end. So when a number is rounded to the nearest 10, the last two digits must be one of those options. A 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5, 0, 6, 0, 7, 0, 8, 0, 9, 0, or 2 zeros. Okay. For numbers up to 100, which are two-digit numbers because they've got a number in the ones column and a number in the tens column, for these numbers we're going to look at the second number in the pair, so that's the ones column, or the units, to decide whether to round up or down to the nearest multiple of 10. So when we're deciding which multiple of 10 to choose, we're going to look at that last place value in the number, the units or the ones. Remember, when we then do our rounding, our answer must end in 0. But, okay, here's the big question. How do we know whether we go up to the next number that ends in 0 or back down to the last number that ended in 0? Let's have a talk about that. Okay. So it all comes down to that second number. We need to have a look at what the options would be. For example, if I was rounding a number between 20 and 30, then the options for that number between 20 and 30 would be 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and then 30. So the numbers between 20 and 30 are those numbers that I just read out, and you can see the second digit. Here we have a 0, so that one's already a multiple of 10. Then we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then another 0, which tells me that that's the next multiple of 10. So that second number is the one we're looking at. Here are the numbers from 20 to 30 on that number line, and I've decided to find the halfway mark between the two. So you can see I've gone in green, one at each end, keeping it even. Dark blue, one at each end. Pink, one at each end. Light blue, one at each end. And then the two yellows meet in the middle at the halfway mark, which for this number is 25. The halfway point between 20 and 30 is 25. And 5 is halfway between all multiples of 10. So if this number was 30, and this was 40, then 35 would be in the middle. If it was 80 and 90, 85 would be in the middle. Okay, so the numbers that end in 5 are the halfway point. Now, when I ask students to think about whether or not we should move from, if we get to the halfway mark, whether we should move on or go back, I want you to imagine a race. Okay, how do we know whether we're rounding up or down? We now know which number we're looking at to help us make that decision. We know what our answer should look like with a 0 on it. But how do we know where we go? Well, I jump into the pool and I'm in a race. I need to get out in a hurry though. I jump in, maybe I start to feel really sick and I think, oh my goodness, If I don't get out in a minute, I'm going to be sick in this pool. Okay, if I jumped in at 20 and I got to 21, well, of course I'm going to turn around and go straight back to the wall because it's closer. Same thing if I jumped in and I swam all the way to 29 before I started to feel sick. I'm going to keep going to 30 because I'm already there, nearly there. One difference. If I was at 22, or I look behind me, I look ahead, the wall behind me that I just came from is closer, I'm going to turn around and go back. So same thing here. If the number is less than halfway like that, it's 22, we're going to round down and go back to the last number. So the same thing, if I was 2 away from the end, put my head up, I can see how close I am, I might as well just go for it. So 28 will round up to 30 as well. And the same thing, whenever we're closer, so 23 is closer to turning around and going back, 27 closer to going forward, 24, getting pretty close to the middle by this point, but I get to 24 and I look back, it's how many jumps back to the 20 versus how many jumps ahead to the 30. 24, I'm still going to go back because the back wall that I just came from is still closer, so I swim back there. Same for 26, it's that little bit closer. But we know, because we just worked it out in the last slide, that 25 is the halfway mark. So, if I've made it halfway down the pool, what do? I am feeling sick, I need to get out of this pool, but I'm halfway between the two ends. Do I turn around and go back to the start, or do I just push on now and finish the race? It's the same distance both ways, so why wouldn't I just push on and finish the race? And that's what we think about when we think about rounding. Once you get to the halfway mark, you might as well just go on to the next number. And we always round that halfway point up. Okay, so you can see there, apart from 5, we always round down to whatever's closer. And you can see the numbers there. I've said 22 down to 20, it's closer. 29 up to 30, closer. Yeah. Now, when we're thinking about that, we now know 5 is the halfway mark. We know that if it's 4, 3, 2, or 1, we're going to go back, down. We're going to round down. If it's 5, and then if it's the other one, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we're going to round up. I always like to narrow it down to 2 options to start with, though, because that makes it a lot easier too. So, if my number's 46, I always ask myself, well, which multiple of 10 would I have counted past most recently if I was counting up to 46? So for 46, I might count back down until I come to a number which has a 0 in the ones column. So 46, 45, 44, 43, 42, 41, 40. 40 would have been the last time that I went past a number that had a 0, that was a multiple of 10. Okay, so 40. So that's my one option. I might be rounding down to 40. I'm going to look at now what the next multiple of 10 would be if I was counting up from my number. So 46, and I'm going to count up 47, 48, 49, 50, 50. So I know for 46, I've narrowed it down to 2 options. I'm either going to round down to 40 or up to 50. If you were listening earlier, you may have already decided whether we should be rounding up or down, but let's keep going together. My options are 40 or 50. I know that 46 isn't the halfway mark itself because it doesn't end with a 5, and that just means I need to think about whether 46 is closer to 40 or 50. You can see here with my yellow jumps that I worked out how many jumps it would be to go from 46 down to 40. That's 6 jumps. How about if I jump up from 46 to 50? 4 jumps. So which has less jumps? Jumping up. It's closer. So the number 46 is closer to 50, and I round to 50. Did you think that when you saw this number? Did you jump ahead and work it out in your mind based on what we discussed? And were you right? Let me know in the comments on this video if you already worked this out. Okay, so we only care about the last 2 digits in most numbers when we're working out 10, okay? The nearest multiple of 10, in most instances, we're just looking at the last 2 digits and finding the last multiple of 10 that we would have gone past. the next multiple of 10 we would be going to, and then working out which of those is the closest. But occasionally, if we're rounding to the nearest 10, we will actually run into a change to other digits in the number. For larger numbers, we need to think about that as well. But most of the time, it's not a problem. So for example here, 332, we just look at the 32, the last two digits. We'd round 32 down to 30, and then that would make the number 330. So we just put the 30 back on the 300 and it becomes 330. Then there's a bigger number there, 9,829. We've got 9,800. We just look at the last two digits, 29. We round that 29 up to 30. Now we've got, I wrote to make 9,829 again, but it would be to make 9,830. Like lots of teachers say, I was just seeing if you were paying attention. Okay, so the only time that we need to think about more than those last two digits, and I did hint that there are some times that we have to, it's pretty rare. Most of the time this isn't the case, but it's good to be aware of it. It's where the rounding is going to impact the hundreds column as well. So I've given an example number there. Say we're rounding 999 to the nearest 10. We're still going to start by looking at those last two digits, 99. We're going to round 99 up to the next multiple of 10 because 9 is pretty close to the end, isn't it? So that gets us up to 100. Now, we're going to round 99 up to 100. But the number already has 900s in it because it's 999, right? So then what we're going to do is we've got the 900 from the first number, and we're going to add this other 100 that we've just rounded the 99 up to, which gives us 900s plus another 100. 900 plus 100 actually makes 1,000. So when we do the step of rounding 99 up to the nearest 10, we actually turn the whole number into 1,000, from 999 to 1,000. So it actually changes the thousands column and the hundreds column, as well as the tens and the ones column in that number. Okay, but they're the ones where it's right on the cusp there. But you have to remember, a really good rule of thumb and a good trick to keep in mind is that the last digit of any multiple of 10 will always be a 0. It might be 2 zeros or even 3 zeros like this, but the last one in the ones column or the units will always be a 0. Okay, so we can round, using rounding knowledge, we can round a number not only to the nearest 10, but to the nearest 100, nearest 1,000, or if we round decimals, we can round to the nearest 10th or 1,000th. Those are similar concepts, except instead of using 5, we might look for 50 or 500 or 0.5 or 0.05 and so on, okay? Wherever the halfway mark will be, it still has a 5 in it, but it will depend on what we're rounding to. I think those deserve their own videos. It's helpful to do it a step at a time, so stay tuned and I'll try and cover those in coming weeks. Today we're just focusing on nearest 10. Alright, if you liked this video, if it was helpful, I'll put myself in the middle of the screen, please subscribe to the channel and then hit the notifications bell so that when you log in, you're notified that there is some new content there that you might be interested in. I know not every video is going to be for every student, but it certainly helps if you can see it pop up there and you can go through and check if there's anything that you've been learning about that might be helpful to review. Good on you if you stuck to the end of the video here, because I know this isn't the most interesting topic in the world, but it is a bit of a tricky concept and it's always helpful to have a refresher. So well done on watching the video and I hope it was helpful. Let me know in the comments. Thanks guys. Bye.